you ever had an operative that you've had to get to defect or bring them in for their own safety and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I had a problem with it as well because they were bringing good intelligence, which was great, and it was some real top-notch stuff. To be fair, that was, and I can't go too deep into it, obviously for obvious reasons. But the problem was, I brought them in on the say-so of the people, the people who I was hired by. That's all I'll say on air. On the premise of a passport being given to them the other end. When I got them back, they said, "No, we don't want to give the passport, and we want you to send him back, and we want another 6 months." I said, "No." I said, "This person's done." I said, "It's over." And we had we had a very, very big row because they said, "Well, look, we'll let him stay here, but we're not giving him the passport, and we're not doing a name change, we're not doing this, we're not." I said, "Yeah." Anyway, we had a big. It got resolved in the end. But what it was down to, I said, "Look, this is my promise." I said, "And I made this promise on the strength of when I asked you, you said I could." I said, "So by breaking your word, you're breaking my word, and I'm not letting that happen." So, but yeah, that's about as deep as I can get into the conversation without kind of crossing any lines, as it were.
I mean, I can imagine it's quite a difficult one, really. I suppose the only way comparison I've got is really like, say, the interpreters in Afghanistan, the people who work with the with the NATO forces or the ISAF forces in Afghanistan, and you want to bring them over, to protect them because that's what they were told. And there's that many that have been left over there who we know are in danger. And there's very, very little we can do about it.
Yeah, it really is a shame, and especially when they've been told or promised that they'll be okay and we'll look after them. And again, this whole thing becomes more of an issue if ever we have to go back. And then we need to hire people again, and they go, "No, we don't trust you because you told my dad or my cousin or my the same promises or whatever the case may be. We don't want," and they end up working against you instead of for you. So. But
I think it'll be a long time before we go back over there. I think.
Hopefully not. I think hopefully it'll be a long time.
I think we're going to be a bit closer to home than Afghan. About halfway, I reckon.
Yeah.
I could see that coming off soon. It's for what I heard the other week, anyway.
It's been a possibility for quite some time, and I think the chances are increasing regularly.
I mean, it must be an interesting time for people who are doing your previous job now. I can imagine there's lots going on, type of thing. And for us to say, they said, "there's no one. We haven't got anyone in Ukraine." Yeah, right. Of course we haven't. It's. I wouldn't say it's common knowledge, but we're not fucking stupid. And the Germans said, "Oh, they have anyway." So, cheers, mate. Yeah. But I'd imagine it's quite an interesting period of time at the moment, almost Cold War-ish.
It is, only worse, and the reason being, if you remember, so Cold War era, right before I kind of was started officially working, as it were. Cold War era, our main area of concentration, our main threat was Russia. Yes, there were secondary threats, but that was our one main area of threat. Now, this is where people get a little bit confused because I actually worked, with a lot of Russian people when I first started, and they said, "Well, the Cold War was over back then. How come you were working with Russians?" And I said, "What do you think happened?" I said, "Do you think one day at the end of the mid-90s, somebody turned around and said, 'Okay, then, well, you stay over in Russia, we'll stay in America, we'll stay in Britain, and we'll trust that you will do exactly what we've told you to do.'" I said, "It didn't quite work like that." I said, there was a whole hoo-ha of making sure everybody was going to do exactly what they did, and everybody, the Russians were all selling each other out left, right, and centre to try and get whatever they could to get rich. And anyway, long and short of it was, and I don't know whether you know this or not, there's more Russian spies now in America and England, and more English and American spies in Russia now than what there ever was at the height of the Cold War. So that's how crazy it is at the minute. But now we've got the added problem where Russia isn't the only threat. China's a threat. The Middle East is a threat. There are threats all over the place. And whereas before, it was level one whack-a-mole, now, we've put the extra pound in the whack-a-mole machine and it's going a little bit faster.
I can imagine. I mean, it's like, bugging each other's embassies and stuff like that, keeping an eye on each other's embassies. I
Yeah.
think North Korea is probably okay with that. It's just a bloke parked outside that house in the middle of a bloody council estate, isn't it? Almost.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite comical. I can't tell you what. I bet some stuff goes on in that one.